Anybody who had any interest in the royal family since the days of Diana know that Harry has just been waiting for his day to strike back. He has had a huge vendetta against his family, the institution, since the day his mother died. And now with the release of his book, Spare, which is coming out on January 10th, and with the release of this 6-part Netflix documentary that him and his wife Meghan did, the press and everybody is just going ham, okay? And I had to add my 2 cents in as somebody who has spent a lot of time in London, somebody who is, full disclosure, a little partial to the fanfare and the pomp and circumstance of the royal family. I do like it a little bit, and I was, paying attention when the Queen died. And as somebody who has that background and has something to say about the topic, I felt like it was only fitting that I share with you guys what I feel about Harry, about Meghan, about the institution, and about how the media and the press deal with all of this shenanigans that is happening right now based on the release of Harry's book Spare and the 6-part Netflix documentary that everybody is shredding online right now. First things first, Harry's vendetta against his family. Princess Diana was the people's princess. Everybody knows that. Everybody loved her at that time. And if you have been paying attention since then, if you're a part of the Commonwealth or have any interest in a royal family, you know how loved Princess Diana was and how heart-wrenching it was to see her pass away in such a tragic way that she did, and how her boys and the family just kept this stiff upper lip as if they hadn't just lost their matriarch, you know what I mean? And so we've known that Harry was a little bit of the younger brother. He was the renegade. He was the one that they could not keep their thumb over since the days that his mother passed away. We also knew that he really thought that there was a conspiracy theory and that Diana either faked her own death or either was killed. And I've shared my idea about that on this channel before, where I said, I feel like Princess Diana was a very powerful woman and she was a modern day witch hunt where people take women that are very powerful, very, very secure, very visible in this world, and they find a way to burn them at the stake. In this instance, they essentially let Princess Diana be run down by paparazzi, so much so that she ended up being run off the road and ultimately dying in a car wreck. And so I think that that was just a version of the modern day witch hunt. That's my opinion of how that played out on the global stage. Harry thought that his mother was faked her own death to get away from the paparazzi. And so all of the commentary around Harry right now, all of the commentary around his book has really shown me that he's super, super traumatized and needs probably a lot of therapy to still deal with the death of his mother. It also feels to me that Harry feels victimized by his family. The way that he's reacting with his commentary on the book and kind of revealing so much personal information and kind of being very vitriolic and very cutting in his descriptions of his brothers, balding and losing his looks, and his father not hugging him when his mother died. The way that he describes all of that makes me feel that he felt very victimized in that institution and that it didn't really feel like a loving family that he was seeking, especially during times of turmoil, like losing your mother at a young age, 10 and 12, I believe they were. And so he's still carrying around, to me, in my eyes, he's still carrying around that trauma and acting from that place of being triggered. We talked about that here on this channel, as well as like understanding your triggers so that your triggers don't lead you astray or that other people can't play upon your triggers and pull your strings. To me, that's what it looks like right now. Harry is still acting upon his triggers, still hasn't fully healed, still hasn't forgiven his family, his father and his brother mainly, and Camilla, Queen Consort, as the third party in his parents' relationship. To me, that's what it looks like with the Spare. We've known since Harry's been a teenager that he's been the renegade. He's the one who does not follow the book. He's the redheaded stepchild. You know what I mean? There's even rumors that his father is not his father and that it's someone that Diana had an affair with. So he's always had this kind of tumultuous relationship with the tabloid press, always being the little bit of the scapegoat, the little bit of the laughing stock, the redheaded stepchild. And you already know how certain cultures are with ginger or redheaded people. They treat them not the best. And so I always felt like Harry played that role in the family regardless. The one thing that I think people are getting tremendously wrong, and I hear this all the time, is they think that people are insistent that this is a move based on money, and that the only reason why Harry and Meghan are out here spilling the beans per se, or being kind of a little bit petty and telling all the personal secrets of the family is strictly for money. And I 100% do not believe that that is the case. When you are in the momentum of money, when you are already wealthy for generations on generations or generations, and you can do anything you want, charities or positive things or negative things to create money, money is not the object. Clearly right now, he wants to spill the beans. He wants to get his vendetta. So Harry and Meghan, for the same money, movies, they could have done, whatever, their podcast, they could have done anything to make the same amount of money. But clearly, when you take money off the table, what he really wanted to speak his truth about
was how his family is.
The reality of living within that construct of the institution of the royal family, of the royal monarch. So I don't believe that this is legitimately and strictly about money. I believe that this is Harry finally feeling like he is avenging his mother's death. And he's finally able to fully express himself in a way that he was never able to express when he was trapped in the confines of the institution. One of the things that I find really, really weird and interesting that Harry says is that every morning they would bring the tabloids down to the breakfast table and read them as a family. I find that really, really, really odd, and I could see how that would really create tension within the family. How are you going to bring down tabloid newspapers about your family and read them at the table, and find any comfort or any solace in that? Of course, that's going to cause tension in the family, because half of it is a bunch of lies, half of it is fabricated, half of it is sensationalized. It's just nuts to do that. That's like, some celebrity reading the comments underneath their IG page at the breakfast table. Obviously, most of the people in there are going to be haters. It's going to be lies. It's going to make you feel like crap. It's going to make you doubt yourself. It's really going to play on your self-esteem. And so when Harry revealed that that's what they actually do, and how in bed the royal family is with the tabloid press, that was very, very shocking to me, and very telling of the energy of the giving a good sense of what it was like to be in that family, and how contentious the reality of it is. Another thing that Harry talked a lot about in his book, and that people have latched onto in the media right now, is how him and William got into a physical altercation. My first thing is like, well, brothers fight, duh. Like, who doesn't have big brothers and they haven't slapped each other in the face once in a while? Yeah, they do. I do get people saying that, yeah, you do that when you're younger, but when you're older, when you're in your 30s, you don't really do that. Some of y'all need to stop lying and really know what happens in these families. And I think we are holding the royal family to a higher standard than we hold regular people. And I think that is the curtain that's being drawn back, which is what creates such tension with Harry revealing this much. He's really showing all of us that the royal family is pretty much no different than any other family around. And even though they walk with this kind of air of dignity and holier than thou, and it's somewhat expected of them because they are royal, and they do have a role to play in society, he's making it clear that as much as they carry themselves as dignified and elegant and civilized, they be knucking and bucking and ready to fight when it comes to Kensington apartment and Frogmore, cottage and all of that. You know what I mean? And so I think that's very, very telling. And of course, it makes them uncomfortable. It makes the British press uncomfortable. It makes the royal family uncomfortable, because it is pulling back a curtain on the realities of what it is to be. Quiet as is kept, a lot of cultures do not, especially the British culture, they like to keep this air of supremacy. They like to keep this air of we are civilized. They like to keep this air of we are the God rightly, queens and kings of the earth. You know what I mean? We are the most intelligent. We are the most intellectual people. And, this is foolishness and rubbish that Harry and Meghan are carrying on with. It's vulgar, and all of that. So when Harry comes out and say, actually, we knucking and bucking in here, William slapped me, pushed me down, broke a glass in my back, Meghan asked me what's going on, William pointed his finger in Meghan's face, when Harry is spilling the beans on the reality of what it is on the British monarch and in regular families, it makes the British people and the British tabloid press extremely uncomfortable. And the truth has a tendency to do that. Now, do I know the story? Obviously not. Was I there? Obviously not. But do I know the realities of human beings and brother relationships and contentious relationships where the mother dies and leaves a father, a brother, and a younger brother in the household with a very cold and contentious relationship in the family, looking at tabloids every day? Of course, it's going to cause that kind of uncomfortable rift in the family. And I honestly do not feel like Harry is completely making it up. You know what I mean? Now, does it come across as a little bit of victim-y? Absolutely. It's like, are you tattletelling? So what are you telling us all? That your brother beat you up? Oh my God. Your brother beat you up. Breaking news. Everybody's brother beat them up. I beat up my brother. Now he's 3 times my size, and he could beat me up if he wanted to, you know what I mean? But we have a good relationship, so we ain't got to worry about that. But it feels a little bit of a tattletelling issue. And I think it goes back to still being triggered, still being hurt, still being traumatized by the loss of his mother and the lack of warmth and care that he experienced in the family that was more of an institution than it was true, loving, supportive family. Meghan. Let's talk about Meghan. Now, when Meghan and Harry got married, 5-6 years ago, I did do a video, and you can go back. I'm going to link it here in the cards so you can see my initial thoughts on Meghan and Harry when they first got married. Long story short, I didn't love her, but I was very happy for what it seemed to be could have come out of that relationship. Biracial, more forward-looking, progressive kind of union in this old institution that needed some fresh blood, that needed some fresh melanin. You know what I mean? That needed some fresh energy. I was excited for that. But I didn't really love her. And I still maintain that I don't super love Meghan. I think she comes across as a little bit not classy. And I also, she comes across as, I'm trying to be the girl next door and you're 40. You should know that you need to curtsy to the queen. You should know that about the royal family. Who are you kidding? You're 40. Princess Diana was, around. We knew her in America. You know what I mean? Where were you, under a rock? Like, how did you not know the royal family? You traveled there. So I feel like she comes across as a little bit disingenuous in terms of her pretending like she didn't know the royal family, and a little bit disingenuous in terms of her trying to be this girl next door, but it not fully landing with the British public. And ultimately now it's really not fully landing with the American public as well. I think the most interesting thing about Meghan to me is that they use a race issue as her biggest concern. And to me, she feels as though she is a white passing mixed race person. And I think she spent her entire life trying to snugly fit herself into this white persona that she felt more comfortable with. Okay, that's fine. You're white passing. You felt more like a white woman. Go ahead. But I think that she was so liked, and so the girl next door, she was not used to being disliked. She was not used to being considered not as classy as we would like. She's not used to being seen as, we don't really F with you like that. And so the first time she experienced that from the British public, she must have thought, oh, this is what it must be like to be black. And oh my God, it's because I'm black and it's because I'm a black woman. Maybe they don't like you. Maybe no, because this is the first time that you've experienced not being liked and adored, and that your white passing persona wasn't fully embraced. You think that, oh, it is to be black. No, that's not necessarily what it is. No, being disliked is not what it's like to be black or to be a black woman. They might not just like you because they just don't like you. They find you not genuine, however they find you. So I do feel that is an interesting part of the analysis of Meghan that people are not talking about. They may not like you because you're black or you're mixed race. You're white passing, dear. They don't like you because of you. And just because you're not used to that doesn't mean that, oh my God, this must be what it's like to be black. It's not, sis. Some of us are actually very much liked and very much adored. You know what I mean? For our genuine personalities. And so that's the thing. That's my issue with Meghan. On the contrary, though, I feel that the British public, and when I say British public, I'm talking about the press. I'm not talking about the regular people, because I know a lot of British people and they could care less. You know what I mean? Like, I love British people. I felt more at home in London, in Britain, in England than I ever did in the United States. The first time I went there and lived there. So I know how English people are, British people are. They are very welcoming, and I never found them to be racist in any vein. So I say that to be clear. Let's be clear. The one thing that I do think, though, is that they feel that they have the liberty to use Meghan as a scapegoat. It's very difficult for British people to come under the lights and come on public and speak ill of the royal family and speak ill of public figures or speak ill of politicians. In fact, their libel laws are extremely strict there. So if they misstep and misspeak and say anything a little bit too froggy, they can be hit with a defamation lawsuit and a libel lawsuit. So they're very careful about how they speak about certain things unless they're given permission to denigrate, or unless they're giving permission, unless it's in the zeitgeist, unless it's the common thing to speak ill of a person. And right now, the person that they have chosen that it's okay to speak ill of, that it's okay to moan and bitch about right now, it's Meghan. She has become a national scapegoat for them to talk crap about. And I don't think that's fair, and I think that's very obvious. There's nothing that, outside of being slightly unlikable, you know what I mean, and slightly like, sis, like, okay, we get it. You're the girl next door. You met the future king and queen of Britain barefoot with ripped jeans, which I think is ridiculous, by the way. Absolutely ridiculous. And of course, they're pulled together in public and pulled together in private. What do you think this is, sis? Like, you didn't do any research? You're coming across as disingenuous and classless. But with that being said, I still don't think that it's right that she becomes the scapegoat and everybody says it's okay to throw Meghan to the wolves and to speak so ill about her for her small little, petty things that you would normally look the other way about. I think that is what Harry and Meghan's biggest issue is that the British family, the royal family, who looks at the tabloids every day, whose press offices feed stories to the tabloid press every day, are okay with the tabloid press ripping Meghan and Harry to shreds in order to save the reputation of Princess Andrew, who's like in affiliate zone of a queen consort, Camilla, who just after 25 years got back a warm space in the heart, instead of King Charles, who just got back in the public's good graces, and William and Kate, who have to firmly try to root themselves in the public's good graces. I feel like that entire firm, that entire institution, in order to let all of them be in the good graces, has allowed the British tabloid press to feast on Meghan and feast on Harry. And I believe that is what Harry and Meghan's biggest issue is. And I don't think it's a lie. I don't think it's a lie. I think it's very obvious that that's what's been happening and why it's caused such this tumultuous relationship within the institution of the British royal family. The last thing I kind of want to say about it is the tabloid press. They are very cutthroat. Very, very cutthroat. And the thing about that I think is so interesting to observe as an American observing the British tabloid press is they have this air of intellectualism about them. I think it's the British accent. I think America kind of being this de facto former colony of Britain is that, whenever on television or in movies, they want the person to sound smart, they give them this slight English accent. You know what I mean? And so English people have a way of trying to uphold themselves as the intellectual superior, race. You know what I mean? There's this supremacy about the way that they speak and that they carry themselves, even when they're talking about rumors, even when they're feasting on Meghan like she's a piece of chum in shark-infested waters, even when they're shredding Harry's, intellect to shreds and saying that he's a beta man to his wife and that Meghan was the one who did everything, when clearly Harry has wanted to chop you guys' head off since he's been 12, 10, when he blames you guys for murdering his mother. You know what I mean? And so they like to speak in a way that is very intellectual, like they're saying something intellectual. Really, it's very cutting in their delivery and it's very tabloidy. It's giving TMZ. It's not giving, MSNBC. It's not giving 2020. It's giving Wendy Williams. It's giving more opinion than it is the facts. And so it's really interesting to watch how it's spoken in a way that's so intellectual, but really at the heart of it, it's gossip. It's gossip and opinion. So it's just interesting to watch other countries. America gets a lot of feedback that we're this way and that way, and we're celebrity obsessed and things like that. But really, the biggest celebrities in Britain are the royal family. And so to see this drama and everything going on with them right now, and how frenzied the media in the West is, that's the media in the US, that's the media in London itself, that's the media in South Africa, that's the media in Australia, and that's the media in all of the colonies and former colonies and realms of Britain, how frenzied everybody is about this topic of Harry's book Spare and Harry and Meghan's Netflix documentary. Final thoughts here. I really feel like they're talking too much. I really feel like Harry is spilling too much, but I understand it. Now, would I sit on television and talk that much crap about my family? Absolutely not. But have I been terrorized and traumatized and lost my mother and been in the public eye all these years as Harry has been? Obviously not. You know, the way that he's expressing his trauma, the way that he is getting his vendetta, his vengeance, avenging his mother's life and speaking and using his voice in a way that she was never able to. I kind of get it, but it also does feel very uncomfortable. You know what I mean? It feels like he's talking a little bit too much. And if I was in their four walls, if I was there with them, obviously I don't know the full story. Full disclosure, I did not watch the full documentary. I just watched snippets of it. Obviously, I do not have the book, so I have not read through the whole book. I am just an American person who has for years been interested in the royal family, who has lived and worked in London, who has followed their story since they got married. I'm just somebody expressing that. If I was in their four walls, I probably played the art of war a little bit differently. I would have, looked back at my 48 laws of power or whatever that is, a little bit differently. And I would have smoothed everything out. I would have played a little bit more chess than checkers. I would have let it quiet down. I would have moved on with my life. I would have, done my charity work. I would have built my money and my new life a different way and left it alone, and then strike at a completely different time. Now I would let it cool all the way down and just keep that a little bit lower and strike at a different time. Now, Harry, they decided to back, leave in 2020, talk to Oprah in 2021, drop the Netflix series in 2022, drop his book in 2023. So Harry just kind of is playing checkers a little bit. And I'd have been like, Harry, lay low and play chess on them. But, to each his own, and he knows what he's doing. And he said in one of his interviews recently that he is speaking the language that they most respond to, which is why he is going directly to the press to speak his truth, because maybe then they will hear him. And I think that says it all. He was not being heard. He was not being taken seriously. And in order for him to exert his power, to feel less victimized in his own family, he decided to pull back the curtain on the realities, not the fantasies, but the realities of what it's like to live and grow up in the British royal institution.